The Vietnam War took place between 1959 and 1975. It started when Soviet China backed North Vietnam against South Vietnam, which had the support from the U.S. They combined to stop the spread of communism. Many people back in the U.S. believed that the war could not be won and did not approve of the war. On the South Vietnamese side, the leader, Ho Chi Minh, led a homegrown guerrilla force called the Viet Cong. The U.S. started launching air raids on some of the major bases, but to no avail. The Viet Cong kept rebuilding these bases. Soon, America had to send in ground troops. By March of 1965, ground troops set foot in Vietnam. During this time, Johnson was president. Johnson limited the fighting in Vietnam mostly to the North Vietnam. Only a little was fought in the South. His plan was to win the war and destroy the defenses in the North so the South could take it over. Nixon soon became president in 1969. Nixon's plan was called Peace with Honor. Nixon's plan withdrew troops from Vietnam while still backing the South. This began July 1969. After all of the troops had been withdrawn, on March 30th, 1972, the Viet Cong invaded South Vietnam. By early 1975, North Vietnam made another push. By April 30th, 1975, the South surrendered. On July 2nd, 1976, Vietnam was reunited under communist rule. My hero, Tom Brady, was born in Cleveland, Ohio. He grew up with a family of three siblings, his dad a doctor and his mother a nurse. When he was only 3 years old, he went in an airplane for the first time and still remembers it to this day. This is what inspired him to fly. He first flew when he was 16 and barely knew how to drive. An Army lieutenant offered to let him fly. He did. He first enlisted in 1949. It took 5 years for him to get his first assignment. He was sent to Germany to be on nuclear alert with a missile that had 10 times more power than the Hiroshima bomb.
Oh dear. So I got to work doing my thing, and there was a guy over in Clark Field, that's headquarters, 13th Air Force. He was doing the same thing I was doing. There was a guy at Hickam, which is Honolulu. He was doing the
He
same
was
thing.
also trained
We were
in
both
dropping
doing
nuclear
now.
weapons,
There
nuclear
was a guy over in the
bombs. He then
Pentagon,
came
in
back to the
headquarters
States
Air
for
Force.
2 years before heading to Vietnam. Over in Vietnam, he flew a C-123 cargo airplane and ran dangerous supply missions, dropping off well-needed supplies to the troops. Some were very precarious.
Who's going to pick up all this stuff? The Army guys came from nowhere, from the sides of this runway, came up and they had that stuff off that runway probably in 3 minutes. It was just something else to see what was happening. So we backed up, and then you get two bells to stop, and we're waiting for one bell at this point of the game, which means I got the back ramp up. We can rotate and make the airplane fly. If the ramp is down, you can't rotate. You're going to fly off the end of the runway and go down with the train, and you better have things cured by the time you get down there, or you're going to be in the forest. Finally got one bell. And I'm looking at Bob, and he just said, go, and I've got the throttles bent over forward. We're cranking out, about 5,000 horsepower off the two engines. And we go storming down the road. And I get to the end of it, the airplane didn't want to fly, and I just fly it off and fall
When
down in
he
this
came
valley
back
and
to the
go this
States
way.
after flying in Vietnam, he signed up for a
This
job
is another
flying a
day of flying
707
with
passenger
the Fun and
airplane.
Games guys.
He is now retired but still flies airplanes at the Auburn Airport. He still loves to fly today.